let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we? It's 1964, San Fernando Valley, Van Nuys Drive-In. A very young 8-year-old Kazdoy Closet is there with his family in their Chevy station wagon watching a movie. I don't recall what movie it was, but for some reason the two trailers we saw are burned into my memory. One was for Rockabye Baby, starring Jerry Lewis. More about him in a future episode. Mom, can we see that? No. The other trailer, which was kind of a weird combination with the Jerry Lewis trailer, was for Lady in a Cage. Mom, can we see that one? No. Now, 58 years later, I finally get to see Lady in a Cage because it just came out on Blu-ray. Was Mom right for saying no, we shouldn't see that? Was it worth waiting all that time to see this film? That's the topic for today's episode. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. This is my closet full of all the stuff that I love. And today we are going to look at Lady in a Cage. Finally, let's check it out. Lady in a Cage is from 1964. It is about 90 minutes long, beautiful black and white. And what is this thing about? Well, it's about a widow who recently had hip surgery and she's pretty well off. And she lives with her son in this big house, kind of a mini mansion, you might say. And she had an elevator installed outside of the staircase. It looks like a cage. And she needed that so she can get up and down the stairs because she can't with her hip surgery. She's using a cane right now. And meanwhile, her son leaves for a few days. The power goes out, so the elevator won't go up and down anymore. She's stuck in the middle. Meanwhile, some rather suspicious looking characters start to invade her home and wreak all kinds of havoc. The director was Walter Grauman. I never heard of him. He had quite a few credits to his resume, mostly television. The cast, pretty good cast. The main character is played by Olivia de Havilland. This was really near the end of her career. She's had, a long career, many credits to her filmography. Most notably Gone with the Wind and The Snake Pit. Ann Sothern plays a small part. I remember her from the Ann Sothern show. And if you really want to have some deep trivia, she was the voice of the car on My Mother the Car. Jeff Corey's in this. He's a character actor who has been in so many movies ranging from the original True Grit to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to Little Big Man, many others, a lot of film noir. I think over 200 film credits. And he was also a pretty renowned drama acting director. And then also in what I believe is his very first feature film role, James Caan. He's very good in this. And we all know who he is from The Godfather, Thief, Misery, Elf, many other films. Lady in a Cage is a pretty weird film, especially for 1964. It starts off right away as setting a kind of an offbeat tone with a sort of a cage and bars motif, similar to the beginning credits of Psycho, which was 4 years earlier and very influential. We have some discordant music playing in the background. We see these cars going back and forth very loudly. For some reason, that continues throughout the film. And then finally, at the end, we see this dead dog lying in the street. And people are driving by very slowly and staring at this dog as they drive by. It's just very bizarre. The main character is named Cornelia, and everything that name connotates. She's rich, she's very snooty, very pretentious, putting on airs all the time. She lives with her son, who must be in his 30s or maybe even his 40s, and she's very controlling to him as he gets ready to leave on this trip he's going to take. And right away, we really don't like her very much. She also mentions, she walks around with a cane and she has a transistor radio, remember those? Hanging from her cane. And she's listening to a news report about missiles possibly being launched. And she says to her son, well, maybe we should invest in some armory stocks again, which also makes you not like her. James Caan enters with his girlfriend who's got a black eye. And we can assume that that's from him hitting her. And she's kind of weird. She's like a 10-year-old mentality kind of, but very sexy blonde. And then he also has this other young guy with him who's kind of this psycho guy. And they enter while she's trapped in this elevator, and they're wearing stockings over their faces as a disguise. And that's always kind of disturbing. James Caan is sort of channeling a little bit of Marlon Brando here. And I'd say about 80% of the film, he doesn't have his shirt on, and he's a pretty hairy guy too. So he's walking around like that throughout. Her attitude once she sees James Caan right away is, "You're an animal." And then he burps at her, and she's shocked at that. And she mentions something about how, oh, he must be one of the types on welfare that my tax dollars go to. And of course, he takes umbrage at that, and yeah, that's me, lady, and makes him even like her less. So there's some conflict between the two of them, sort of a class conflict going on, but you know, it's not that heavy. It's just barely glanced at as far as any kind of thematic string in this film. So there is a lot of tension in this film. You're not sure where it's going to end up. It keeps cutting back to those cars going back and forth in front of the house. I think maybe the idea is we drive by these houses without any idea of what's going on behind those doors. Maybe that's the idea. And it is unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen. There's also a surprising bit of violence in this film. Some of it on screen, some of it off screen, and some also surprising sexual innuendo where James Caan is basically intimating that maybe the de Havilland character still breastfeeds her elderly son, which is really creepy and weird. And she gets rather upset about that. So we don't really like her. We don't really like him or his cronies. There's a couple other people that come in there. I don't want to give away too much. And we really don't like them either. So there's really nobody likable or sympathetic in this film. And that could be a problem for some people. So was mom right in not letting her 8-year-old son watch this film? Absolutely. It is totally inappropriate. I'm not sure why at 8 I was so into seeing this film. Maybe it just started my love affair with horror films and thrillers at that young age. It's possible. But the trailer, which is included on this disc, is quite unusual. It begins with Olivia de Havilland addressing the audience as herself. "Hi, I'm Olivia de Havilland," and explaining what this film is about, trying to give it sort of a classy veneer, I think. And then later on, it shows the different characters and sort of a caption underneath each character, sort of like, this is the wino, this was the muscle, this was the psycho. And then a disclaimer from the management saying the theater owners urge you, do not go see this movie alone. And they say that like 2 or 3 times. The critics, in fact, hated this film. They called it reprehensible, of no redeeming social value, disturbing, and even the British Film Board wouldn't certify this film. That's how much they hated it. So, was it worth the wait? 58 years to see this? Well, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there. I don't know what film is worth that long a wait, but I was definitely glad to see it. Now, one thing I go by when I'm watching films is how impatient I might get. And this is only a 90-minute film, so at one point I thought, okay, how long can they stretch out this premise? When is this thing going to end? I thought maybe there was a half hour left. I looked at my watch. There's only 5 minutes left, so I thought, well, that's a pretty good sign because I really got into it and it really carried me along for that amount of time. I'm going to give this film 4.5 cars out of 5. Cars because of the cars that go by the front of her house all throughout the film. And let's take a look at what's on this disc. This is on the imprint label, which has only been around, I think, 1 or 2 years, and which I'm getting a little too obsessed with. And it comes out of Australia. And let me show you what's going on here. First of all these imprint discs have a very nice slipcover. Actually, it's limited to the first, I think, 1,500 copies that are sold. Then after that, you don't get this nice slipcover, which slips out of the side instead of out of the top. I know it's kind of dumb, but it's thicker than most slipcovers are. And I like the writing on the front of this where it says, "She was caged in a nightmare of greed, bestiality, and murder." So almost like an exploitation film. In fact, some people said it's like an exploitation film, but it was made by Paramount Pictures. It wasn't made by some a B movie studio. The front artwork on the case is different from the slipcover, which is pretty cool. The back just tells you what the extra features are. The disc itself has some artwork on it. And there's some reverse artwork as well, and you can see James Caan up there on the top of the stairs with the stocking on his face, and there's Olivia de Havilland in her little cage slash elevator looking at him. The picture quality is stunning, really beautiful. The sound is fine, a little too loud at some points with the cars honking and stuff, but I think that was sort of the idea, to sort of shock you a little bit. The extras include 2 different commentary tracks. There's the trailer that I mentioned. There's also a video essay about the beginning of the film, and I really like that. I wish it had gone on a little bit longer. It's only about 10 minutes long. 20 minutes would have been better, I think. The only thing they don't put in these discs is a booklet. That would have been nice too. A little background about the film. Shout Factory also did a version, I think about the same time, of Lady in a Cage, and I'm not sure what's on that disc. So where can you see this? You can rent it, you can buy it, try your local library. That's it for Lady in a Cage. Hope you liked this episode. Feel free to leave a comment down here. Did you happen to see this film or hear of it before? Feel free to leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be great. Share this with your friends and neighbors. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you next time.